Have you ever wondered why some relationships drain you while others help you flourish? The difference lies in emotional maturity. And today, you'll discover the 10 signs that identify a man who has truly done his inner work. You won't just change how you choose a partner, but completely transform your relationship starting today. The first sign of an emotionally mature man is that he doesn't react impulsively to provocations. Have you noticed how some people immediately jump when something doesn't go as expected? A man who has done his inner work has learned to pause before responding. Carl Jung explained that our impulsive reactions are actually reflections of our unresolved inner shadows. When something destabilizes us, it's not because it has power over us, but because there's something inside that we haven't yet mastered. An emotionally mature man understands that not everything deserves a reaction. When someone tries to provoke him, his face doesn't change, he stays calm. You can tell he's in control because he observes situations without becoming emotionally involved. He pauses before responding and asks himself, "Does this really deserve my energy?" And almost always the answer is no. Have you found yourself attracted to men who react explosively and then regret it later? That chaotic energy might seem passionate at first, but soon becomes a source of instability. A powerful exercise is to observe how a man reacts when something doesn't go according to plan. Does he explode? Does he lose control? Or does he maintain his center and respond strategically? That response will tell you everything you need to know. If you want to test someone's emotional maturity, observe their behavior under pressure. An emotionally immature man falls apart, while a mature one stays centered. Repeat this phrase. A person's reaction says more about them than about the situation they're facing. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The second sign is that he takes complete responsibility for his emotions and actions. The emotionally mature man never blames others for how he feels. Jung spoke about the importance of personal responsibility as part of the individuation process. He said that until we take responsibility for our shadows, we'll continue projecting them onto others. Think about your past relationships. How many times have you heard phrases like, "You make me angry," "It's your fault I feel this way," "If you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have reacted like this"? These are clear signs of emotional immaturity. An emotionally mature man will say, "I feel frustrated by this situation and I need to process this," instead of, "You're frustrating me." This ability to take responsibility extends to all areas of his life. He doesn't look for excuses, doesn't point fingers when something goes wrong, and most importantly, he acknowledges his mistakes without feeling that his value as a person is being questioned. Jung explained that recognizing our shadows doesn't make us weaker, but more complete. If you want to know if you're dealing with an emotionally mature man, observe how he talks about his past failures. Does he see them as learning opportunities or as injustices that happened to him? The difference is enormous. Try this exercise. The next time you talk with him about a challenge he faced, pay attention to whether his narrative focuses on external circumstances or on his own responsibility. Remember, it's not about being perfect, but about having the humility to recognize that each person is the architect of their own destiny. An emotionally mature man will never make you responsible for his happiness, because he knows that's a burden only he should carry. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The third sign of an emotionally mature man is that he has clear boundaries and respects yours. Boundaries are essential for mental health, and Jung understood that without them, we become susceptible to being controlled by others' expectations and demands. Have you been with someone who constantly invades your space, your time, your decisions? Or maybe with someone who never says no, who's always available and eventually exhausts you with their need to please? Both extremes demonstrate a lack of healthy boundaries. The emotionally mature man understands that no is a complete sentence. He doesn't need to justify himself or feel guilty for protecting his time and energy. The most fascinating thing is that a man with clear boundaries will never try to break yours. He'll respect when you say no, understand when you need space, and value your independence because he values his own. Jung spoke about how boundaries are essential for the individuation process, that path toward becoming complete beings. Now, do this exercise. Think about the last time you established a boundary with someone. How did they react? Were they offended? Did they try to make you feel guilty? Or did they respect it calmly? The answer will reveal a lot about their emotional maturity. Boundaries aren't walls to keep you away. They're doors that you control. They allow you to decide who enters, when, and on what terms. A man who understands this will never try to force that door. Repeat this phrase: my boundaries are non-negotiable, and anyone who truly values me will respect them. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The fourth sign is that he can be alone and enjoy it. Solitude doesn't terrify him. He understands it as a necessary space for introspection and self-knowledge. Jung firmly believed that the path to individuation requires periods of conscious solitude, not as an escape, but as an encounter with oneself. Have you wondered why so many men jump from one relationship to another without taking time to process, to heal, to grow? The fear of being alone reveals deep insecurities, an inability to face one's own thoughts and emotions. An emotionally mature man doesn't use relationships as a distraction or as external validation. Think about this. Does the man you're getting to know have his own interests, solid friendships, personal projects? Or does his life completely revolve around you since he met you? Healthy interdependence comes from two complete people who choose to share their lives, not from two halves seeking to complete each other. Jung explained that true connection with another human being is only possible when we first connect with ourselves. A man who fears his own company probably has shadows he hasn't wanted to face, aspects of himself he has repressed, and that will eventually affect the relationship. Try this exercise. Observe how he reacts when you can't see or talk to him for a while. Does he become anxious, demanding, resentful? Or does he respect that space and use it to nurture other areas of his life? Remember this truth. Someone who hasn't learned to be alone will feel lonely even when accompanied. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The fifth sign of an emotionally mature man is that he openly communicates his feelings without drama. He's not afraid to show vulnerability because he understands that true strength lies in authenticity. Jung taught us that the mask we use to protect ourselves eventually becomes our prison. Have you been with men who completely shut down when something affects them? Or worse yet, who explode without warning because they've repressed their emotions to the boiling point? The emotionally mature man does neither. He recognizes what he feels, processes it internally, and then communicates it clearly and directly. This is revolutionary in a world where men have been taught that showing emotions is a sign of weakness. Jung explained that this emotional repression creates a powerful shadow that eventually emerges in destructive ways. The mature man has done the work of reconciling with all his emotions, even those that society told him he shouldn't feel. Observe how he talks about his fears, his sadness, his insecurities. He doesn't seek to impress or victimize himself. He simply expresses what's there, trusting that his value doesn't diminish by acknowledging his humanity. This emotional authenticity is surprisingly rare and absolutely transformative in a relationship. Do this exercise. In your next deep conversation, pay attention to whether he can talk about emotions with nuance, or if he only recognizes extremes like good or bad. The richness of his emotional vocabulary will show you how connected he is to his inner world. Remember, someone who can name what they feel can manage it. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The sixth sign is that he has healed his past wounds instead of projecting them onto you. We all come to relationships with scars from previous experiences, but the difference lies in whether those wounds remain open or have been attended to and transformed into wisdom. Jung spoke about the concept of compulsive repetition, that tendency to recreate painful situations from the past, unconsciously seeking a different resolution. The man who hasn't healed his childhood traumas or previous heartbreaks will inevitably turn you into a character in his unresolved story. Has it happened to you that you're accused of things you haven't done? That they react to you as if you were someone else? those are projections, and they're clear signs of open wounds. The emotionally mature man has done the inner work to distinguish the past from the present. He sees you as who you really are, not as the ghost of someone who hurt him before. This ability to see clearly, without the filter of past traumas, is perhaps the most profound difference between relating to someone emotionally mature versus immature. Jung said that our projections are like shadows we cast on others, preventing us from truly seeing them. Try this exercise. Pay attention to whether he talks about his past relationships with resentment or with understanding. If he describes all his ex-partners as crazy or bad people, it's a clear sign that he hasn't processed those experiences and will probably see you through that same distorted lens eventually. Repeat this truth: I am not responsible for healing wounds I didn't cause. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The seventh sign of an emotionally mature man is that he knows how to let go of control. He understands that much of human suffering comes from wanting to control the uncontrollable. Other people, external circumstances, the future. Jung explained that our desire for control arises from fear and the illusion that we can avoid life's uncertainty. Have you been with someone who needs to decide everything, who gets upset when things don't follow his plan, who tries to direct not only his life, but yours too? That behavior, though sometimes disguised as protection or care, reveals a deep insecurity. The emotionally mature man has learned to distinguish between what he can control, his responses, decisions, actions, and what he cannot, your decisions, the outside world, outcomes. This distinction allows him to move through life with a flexibility that seems almost magical. He doesn't break down when faced with the unexpected. He doesn't crumble when things take an unexpected turn. Jung spoke about the importance of flowing with life instead of constantly fighting against it. This ability to let go of control is especially evident in how he handles disagreements. Can he accept that you have a different opinion without feeling threatened? Does he respect your autonomy, even when your decisions aren't the ones he would make? Do this exercise. Observe how he reacts to uncertain situations or when plans suddenly change. Does he adapt with serenity or lose control? Remember this truth: someone who needs to control everything actually feels completely out of control inside. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The eighth sign is that he prioritizes growth over comfort. The emotionally mature man understands that stagnation is a form of slow death. Jung spoke of life as a constant process of evolution, where each crisis is actually an opportunity to expand our consciousness. Have you known men who avoid any difficult conversation, any uncomfortable situation, any change that disturbs their comfort zone? Although initially this might seem like tranquility, over time it becomes a prison. True growth always occurs outside the comfort zone. An emotionally mature man doesn't fear change or challenges because he knows they are the path to a more complete version of himself. He not only accepts constructive feedback, he actively seeks it. He doesn't see crises as catastrophes, but as catalysts. This growth mindset is reflected in all areas of his life, including his relationship with you. Jung explained that relationships are one of our greatest mirrors, and therefore an extraordinary opportunity for personal growth. The mature man doesn't evade conflicts or difficult conversations because he understands that it's precisely these moments that strengthen and deepen the connection. Try this exercise. Observe if he can openly talk about his areas for improvement, if he seeks to learn from his mistakes, if he shows curiosity about growing as a person. A man who believes he's complete or perfect will never evolve. Remember, true love doesn't keep us comfortable, it keeps us growing. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The ninth sign of an emotionally mature man is that he values depth over appearances. In a world obsessed with the superficial, he seeks substance. Jung taught us that true human connection happens at the soul level, not at the level of the social masks we wear. Have you wondered why so many relationships feel empty, despite seeming perfect on social media? It's because they're built on images, not on truths. The emotionally mature man isn't interested in keeping up appearances. He prefers an honest conversation that momentarily hurts to a comfortable falsehood that slowly corrodes the relationship. This valuation of depth is reflected in how he gets to know you. He doesn't stay with the obvious or with what everyone sees. He asks you questions that no one else has asked, pays attention to details that others overlook, and remembers things that are important to you, even when you mention them just once. He sees you, really sees you. Jung believed that the soul yearns to be recognized, not simply seen, but truly recognized in its uniqueness. The emotionally mature man has that capacity for recognition because he has learned to see beyond the surface, both in himself and in others. Do this exercise. Analyze the quality of your conversations. Do they stay on superficial topics, or can they dive into deeper waters? Does he show curiosity about your inner world, or does he settle for the social version you present to the world? The answer will reveal much about his emotional maturity. Remember, real intimacy begins when the masks fall. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The 10th and final sign, perhaps the most powerful, is that he loves from freedom, not from need. The emotionally mature man doesn't need you to feel complete. He chooses you because you enrich a life that is already full. Jung explained that true love isn't fusion or dependence, but an encounter between two complete individuals. Have you ever felt that overwhelming weight of being someone's only source of happiness, purpose, or stability? That's not a responsibility of love. It's a burden of codependency. The mature man doesn't place impossible expectations on you. He doesn't expect you to be his therapist, his mother, his savior. This freedom in love manifests in very concrete ways. He supports you in your personal goals, even if that means spending less time together. He celebrates your achievements without feeling threatened. He respects your individuality without trying to mold you in his image. Jung said that true love is that which recognizes and honors the otherness of the beloved. Perhaps the clearest indicator of this maturity is how he handles moments when you can't give him what he wants or needs. Does he react with understanding or with manipulation, with respect or with pressure? The immature man will try to make you feel guilty. The mature one will understand that your boundaries are not a personal rejection. Do this final exercise. Observe if your relationship makes you feel more free or more trapped. Do you feel expanded or contracted? More yourself or less? Mature love always brings you closer to your essence, never takes you away from it. Remember this truth. Someone who truly loves you wants to see you flourish, not possess you. These 10 signs that we've explored together will forever transform your way of choosing a partner. It's not about finding the perfect man, because he doesn't exist. It's about recognizing one who has done the inner work, who continues to grow, and who can accompany you in a relationship that adds to both of you, not subtracts. Jung said that the purpose of psychology is not to make us normal, but to make us conscious. And this consciousness is precisely what distinguishes an emotionally mature man. He has looked his shadows in the eye, has integrated his rejected parts, has learned from his wounds, and has transformed his weaknesses into strengths. Not because he's perfect, but because he has chosen the path of authenticity. And do you know what's most powerful about all this? That by learning to recognize these signs, you're also learning to cultivate them in yourself. Because emotional maturity isn't a matter of gender, it's a matter of consciousness. I invite you to comment below. I choose to relate from emotional maturity and attract into my life people who have done the same inner work. Do it now as a declaration of intention to the universe. And if this video has made you reflect, share it with that friend who needs to hear these truths. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell for more content that helps you build conscious and nourishing relationships. Remember, you deserve a love that expands you, not limits you. A love that celebrates your light and that has the courage to accompany you in your darkness as well.